The wonderful world of Pokemon card collecting, a great time, a great place for everyone to express their feelings and how much they love specific cards, their favorites, the things they like, the things they don't like. One of the things that's been getting a little bit of scrutiny lately, which I completely understand, and sure, it exists, the criticism, fine, whatever, cool. Japanese Pokemon cards, specifically like the prices and the decline overall of value for most of it, and I get it, that is something that is happening a good little bit, and a lot of people are talking about specific cards just dropping and plummeting. One of the ones that gets brought up a whole hell of a lot is the Umbreon VMAX. Apparently, at one point, that one was like a $3,000 card, $4,000 card, mostly graded in a PSA 10. That did happen. People were going nutso butso for it, but now the Evolving Skies one, apparently the one in English, is just as good, just as popular, and just as expensive, apparently, too. The value for that has plummeted, and a lot of people are using that as an excuse to basically just take stabs at Japanese cards. You know what? The criticism for that is fine. It's valid to a degree. It's one of those things where people kind of pretended to like something more than they actually did, and we saw the ripples of it across the Pokemon space when people were just hyping up sets, buying into things, and basically purchasing things for promised value long term that did not really exist in something that had no interest in it. One of the ones that people don't really talk about anymore, though, and I've seen it happen a lot, people just kind of glaze over that shit, is this one right here, this card right here standing next to me, the one Scyther's holding, the Iono from Clayburst. A lot of people tend to forget, or they just simply were not here for it. I mean, either or is okay. They just forget how crazy hyped this card was about a year and a half ago. I'm not even talking about like the values that were expressed that we didn't even have any solid purchases to it, where people had this shit listed up raw for about 3,000 USD. Yes, that is real. That is a very valid thing that happened where people did attempt to list it up and try to sell it. I'm not even going to bring that up. The thing I will bring up, though, is the fact that like this card was selling for about $1,600 to $1,800 raw in April of 2023, where people were going crazy for the hype, were falling for like Japanese card propaganda bullshit that people were actually posing. And this is coming from someone who likes Japanese cards, but I'll get to that here in a second. And just you can see sales right here where people were 100% buying and just eating whatever people were telling them online. There was a ton of people that were claiming that this was the move, this was the way to go forward, and people need to buy these cards now while they still have a chance, because the eventual value for this bullshit is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. And I made several videos at the time telling people not to give into the hype, not to actually buy this stuff unless you absolutely truly want to and you think it's a good thing for your money. Obviously, we can't stop everybody from doing whatever they want, but you will be able to get these cards for considerably cheaper. And there was tons of fucking kickback where people were like, no, that's not what's going to happen here. The thing's only going to go up. The Japanese market works like this. These Japanese people love these waifu cards and all. Like, people explaining things like how they weren't even here for it, just outlining how the fucking Japanese market worked for all these years. And as a result, people bought these cards. I remember seeing people buy them. There's some people that bought this card not quite for this much, but they paid a considerable amount for a card, like $900, $800, close to $1,000 USD, maybe a little bit more, whatever currency they were using. And nowadays, if you're looking at the value of this card, it's still not a cheap card by any stretch of the imagination, but you can pick up this card near mint, fucking shipping $8, man. You can still pick up this card and you can get it for under $300. That is basically a fucking, you can get it for a sixth or a seventh of what people are charging that for. And I got this one in a PSA 9 for under this value. I got it for under $200. I actually was able to scoop that up, and I was just amazed, just flabbergasted with how much the price had fallen, and really so much more about how nobody was talking about this, but everybody was talking about the fucking Umbreon VMAX from EV Heroes. Now, why does stuff like this happen, where a card can literally be fucking like $2,000 for a set with its full art, to nearly dropping to like $300? And I'll tell you why, and this is something to remember going forward in the future. People do not care about Japanese cards as much as they say they do. The vast majority of people do not care. Their opinions can be bought, and if there's something that's crazy on the rise or on the hype or something like that, they'll just buy into it and fucking latch onto it, pretend they know what they're talking about, and just push it forward, push it out, keep it going. That's just not how it normally goes, though. There's three big things that the fucking average person here, the normal people in this fucking hobby, are going to do. Most of them do not like Japanese cards. Most of them do not like full art trainers unless they're playing it in a deck or something like that. There are a couple exceptions to this rule where some people do collect trainers, such as myself, and they have all of them. Even the cheap ones that cost like $2 to $3, not just the fucking hype ones that everybody wants of that shit. And then number three, if people can choose a vintage card over a modern card, they're going to take the vintage card every time. If you see major deviations in this, if you see a bunch of people deviating outside of this minus the couple of exception cards, you're basically looking at hype. You're looking at someone trying to fucking sell you something long term. And there are some people that made a lot of money off this card over here because they knew like it was not going to stay this way. They were basically just like, yep, selling this card for $1,800 now, selling it for $1,600 now. It's going to be fucking pennies upon that stuff. But they didn't tell people that. They instead perpetuated this idea that it was going to be this crazy chase card. The Japanese market does this. The Japanese market does that. Here's what this does. It's going to be it's the rarer version of it. It's fucking so much harder to get Japanese chase card and just a bunch of bullshit where people were just basically applying a broad rule across an entire market. And people bring it up all the time right now with Umbreon. No one talks about it with this card anymore. And I just want to friendly remind people that this card did exist. It was basically just as hyped as Umbreon VMAX when it came out. And it is now dropped to like something ridiculous. You can pick it up in basically any language for super, super cheap. English, it's like a $50 card. In Japanese, you can get it for like $250. And then any other language following. So, I mean, you can get it for like $75, $100, no problem. Don't buy into hype for certain things. Buy cards you like. You're never going to have an issue if you're purchasing things that you genuinely like. And if you purchase this card for $1,800 and you genuinely liked your purchase, hey, more power to you. No one's here to tell you what you did was absolutely wrong. Just if you bought it for the sake of it being a long-term money-making card for you to flip in a couple years, I'm sorry. I don't even think the card's going to stay where it is currently. I think it's going to drop a little bit more, especially with the Japanese market just mass releasing boxes, flooding the market with the singles, and just giving average people a chance to get chase cards again. I just don't think, I think people were told something, and I don't think it's going to be the last time it happens. I definitely do think another Japanese hype wave is going to fucking rise up again. It might be coming sooner than we think. I guess we'll see, and the single prices will basically be the ultimate judge of that. But once again, just buy the things you like. Do the stuff you want. If you like paying expensive prices for cards, so be it. Do what you want. I'm not here to tell you what to fucking do. Just remember, hype does exist. People did it with things that weren't just Umbreon VMAX or Evolutions or Charizards. People did that shit with trainers too, and a lot of people are holding cards now that they don't really like because they were fucking told something about money, value, long-term flip shit. This is what the market's going towards, and a lot of people are now left holding the bag. Don't necessarily feel bad. You're a responsible adult. You made decisions with your money. Yeah, it just happened. Just wanted to bring that shit up again. Yeah, went from $1,700 to like less than $300. That's a drop. That's a drop and a half, and no one's fucking even mentioning the fact that it happened. I think it's like people want to just completely forget it, sweep it under the rug. It never fucking happened. No one ever did that shit with Japanese cards. No one's ever pushing that shit. You lie, says the $900, $1,000 Miriam from the base set. That's hilarious too. That card's also dropped a lot. Maybe another time. That's all I got. Appreciate it, Virgin Gang. See you later. The hype is real. It really is. Don't fall for that bullshit because as much as it's real, it's fake as shit.